What is up, people of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Welcome to my breakdown of She-Hulk, episode 3, titled The People versus Emil Blonsky. This episode was once again a short episode, I believe a couple of minutes longer than last, and as usual, I'm still enjoying She-Hulk, because it's just the kind of show that I don't think is still spectacularly through the roof, but it's still a show that, because of its very nature of being a bit sitcom-y, it's just something I can kind of just kick back and enjoy compared to, I suppose, the Disney Plus shows that I guess try and make an effort to take themselves very seriously, but don't always pull it off in all kinds of various different areas, of which I think is why WandaVision did so well, at the beginning at least. A lot of people loved the first 3 episodes, give or take, and then when it started to take itself a bit more seriously and break into, again, just taking itself more seriously when we found out the nature behind Wanda and what was going on there, that's when the writing started to dip a little bit here and there. So you get what I mean. I feel like She-Hulk has a little bit of a, I wouldn't say a free pass, but it has a different quality to it, which adds a different lens on my viewing compared to other MCU stuff, I guess you could say. But let's get right into this at the beginning, and that is with Jennifer going to visit Emil at the Department of Damage Control. And obviously, with the end of last episode, she wants to confront him about escaping, and as a result would totally blow his chance at parole. But he is pretty insistent that he was forced to leave his cell, and he returned of his own free will. Which is when we get the segue into Wong in this episode, because he names the Sorcerer Supreme as the very person who did that, with the ability to allow him to escape without being detected. And considering it's an insanely secure, max security Department of Damage Control place, there is only one kind of person who could pull that off. And around about this part of the episode, we get another wall break saying, you know, I know you can't wait to see Wong, but don't go thinking it's one of those cameo of the week shows, and she starts naming the people who have cameoed, but she failed to mention Matt Murdock. Obviously, we know why. It's not exactly a surprise, but at this point in the show, you know, it's not like she's met Matt Murdock, but it kind of low-key is, you know, a show with week to week we've had big characters such as Bruce, Abomination, Wong. Who else is going to come in? Well, Daredevil himself. This is where we get introduced to the really random other plot going on in this episode, of which Pug has to handle. Of course, Adrian Chase from Arrow, of whom I'm sure many of you on this channel recognize. And that's because Dennis, none other than Dennis, needs help on a delicate matter. He has been defrauded by an ex-girlfriend, and he wants to file a suit at her as a result. And that's because she has been shape-shifting into, you know, various other people. And one of them that Dennis fell for was Megan Thee Stallion, who featured in this episode. And this is because, as I said, she's a shape-shifting light elf from New Asgard. Of course, after Ragnarok, everyone settled in New Asgard. So yeah, this particular random character this episode has been going around impersonating a few people. The thing I loved about this scene is just how much Jennifer was laughing at the fact that Dennis thought he could pull Megan Thee Stallion. She just couldn't quite get over it. And so this is when Wong portals in, and he admits to everything, more or less. He says it's all true. He extracted him from the prison against his wishes, and that's because he required a worthy opponent for his training to become Sorcerer Supreme, and he insists that he doesn't want him to be punished. I do feel like there might be something more behind this. I don't want to read too into it, but, you know, you could argue it was because of just something as simple as that. But at the same time, what if there is something behind this? Because there are various theories out there that we could see Abomination again in the distant future, albeit that this episode, a part of his parole, meant that he had to have like a freaking tracker on him that would detect if he ever became an Abomination again. But that could be worked around, but we'll dive into that a little bit later. We also get references to Wong talking about the shadow dimension in this moment, the mirror dimension. Of course, we've seen those before. If you guys remember, somehow Peter managed to one-up Doctor Strange and leave him in the mirror dimension. I still struggle with that one. And also the shadow dimension, which obviously was teased at the very, 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 very end of Multiverse of Madness, of which we're going to see in future installments, of course. But regardless, the parole quite literally depends on Wong later, because, you know, no matter what, the parole board is just going to see it as this dude escaped. You're telling me there's a witness that can somehow explain how he miraculously escaped, and of course, Wong is late. But meanwhile, with Pug and Dennis, we have him meeting his client. He admits he spent $175,000 on this light elf when he believed that she was Megan Thee Stallion. I believe at this moment as well, Pug is on his laptop watching a video on Uscreen. Obviously a ripoff of YouTube. There's a QR code. I'm sure many of you are aware each episode's had a QR code that you could scan and actually get a little reward, such as an issue of a She-Hulk comic, for example. At this time, we had She-Hulk being absolutely bombarded by news. There's even rumors or whatever with regards to her being rejected from the Avengers. This is a slight nod to a similar storyline in that of the comics. We also had another comment later on, if I remember from the top of my head, in where they ask her something like, did you get your powers or something from a mob hit going wrong? Which I believe was a reference to her origin in the comics. Like in this one, we just saw a car crash, similar to that of, traditional Hulk origin story kind of stuff. But also, of course, she had the blood go in her wound, and then that's what made her Hulk. But in the comic story, she actually got shot by a mobster, and she had to have the blood transfusion after that. So, just a nice little Easter egg there that they wanted to insert with all these rumors going around. That also, apparently, she's hooking up with Abomination, and they have a little Bonner Hulk, or whatever the hybrid was called. All the speculation out there, which I guess is also a little piss taker. All of the, inflated rumors that can go on, even in real life, or even rumors of that of the comic book space. Like, the Batman 2 is cancelled. Or, the next movie in Avengers is going to have frickin' Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. I don't know, but you get the point. And so, we're at the point of the review with the parole board, and all of Abomination's soulmates arrive, and they look like something out of a cult, or, Midsummer or something like that. It's just, I don't know if that was a good look or not, but maybe at the same time, it just shows how many people love this man. And because Wong isn't there, they wanted to hear from the witness first, and how he's a changed man, focused on spirituality, physicality, and audialities, and everything else like that. Just reminding me to talk about the humor this episode. Again, the humor I felt was a bit more flat this episode, I feel, than previous episodes. It doesn't always land, but at the same time, I still enjoyed myself. But there were moments like this where I guess it was okay. It wasn't making me crack up. There were moments in this episode that made me laugh. But moments like this, I was just like, okay, this is feeling a bit like Marvel dragging on a joke. The spirituality, the physicality, the something-uality. It's just like, okay, I get what you're trying to do here. A joke like that kind of reminds me of the No Way Home. Hey, Peter Parker. Me? No. Peter. That kind of thing. It's like, can you just do it once and not drag it on? Hearing myself say that sounds a bit too harsh. I'm not saying She-Hulk is full of jokes like that, just this specific one seemed to go on a little bit. Wong arrives, explains to the board that he did indeed take him. It gave him no choice, but it was also his choice to return. He gave him the opportunity to have asylum at Kamartage, but he was adamant to return and, serve out his sentence. So Wong here, as we find out, even though it was obvious from the get-go that he was basically admitting to a prison break, but it's not like it was going to stop Wong in this moment. He could just open a portal like he did and walk through the other side. So now, technically, Wong is a fugitive, even though maybe he already was with some of the stuff that wizards get up to. And so even with that witness statement out the way, they're still concerned about the Abomination side, but this is when we have Blonsky transform into Abomination to show his demonstration of control. It still freaks everyone out, but he goes back to normal. But I guess that showed the point that he is also in control, and it's not like a raging and unrelenting monster every single time that he transforms. But cut to court with the Light Elf Runa being defended, moving for dismissal. This joke kind of did make me laugh because I felt like it was a piss take on itself in a way, because Runa, the Light Elf, was using the excuse that she had diplomatic immunity, and the reason why that is because Asgard is not a place, it's its people, so therefore wherever you are you have diplomatic immunity, so therefore the case should be thrown out. But yeah, it's just, I felt like a self-aware joke. Meanwhile, we have Jennifer leaving the prison. We have her going to the bar to unwind a little bit, wishing that she could just kind of go back to the anonymous lawyer, but I don't think that's ever going to be the case ever again. And this whole episode, kind of from the get-go, we've had this little seed planted that she should take an interview, be a part of the news to help control the narrative rather than let this speculation go on. So Nikki says in this moment that this can all go away with one little interview, which we kind of got teed up at the end. We got another speaking to the audience moment here from Jennifer saying, connecting the A and B story here, because we have Pug arrive and talk about Dennis and the case and how Jennifer and Nikki view him as gross, which gave him the light bulb idea of maybe using one of them to show how inflated his ego is and everything like that, that maybe he could very well believe that he could pull Megan Thee Stallion, because I believe at this current point in time, the defense of the Light Elf was that he was engaging in roleplay with the shapeshifter. So he was aware that it wasn't Megan Thee Stallion. But ultimately, thanks to Jennifer taking a stand and characterizing Dennis as very self-absorbed, a pathological, entitled man, and yeah, he is that delusional to believe that. And now I believe at this point we had even Megan Thee Stallion herself in the court stands at the back, which of course may as well include the post-credit scene here, where they actually did a scene of them twerking. Right, I mean, that was right after, of course, when she signed Megan Thee Stallion as her client. Now, this is, some people I can imagine might view this as like, that's ridiculous. Oh, did they really have to put that? This is the kind of thing, again, that kind of personifies how I feel about She-Hulk. It doesn't take itself so seriously. So a scene like this, I was just like, hell yeah. Like, I find this funny. It didn't bother me whatsoever. If anything, again, I kind of find this level of comedy that they're putting into it to just kind of fit the tone of the show that it's had since episode 1. But again, I think it intrigues me. It really intrigues me as to what they're going to do with Matt Murdock's Daredevil, because we know we're getting him. We know that they've said it will bring a much lighter kind of hearted tone to Daredevil, so I am so intrigued. Maybe they're going to have a bit of a lawyer chat there, and that could get interesting. I'd love your ideas as to what you think they're going to do with Daredevil in episodes to come. But end of the episode now, parole board grant the release of Abomination. There are a couple of catches though. He has to wear an inhibitor, any violation whatsoever, and I guess it can pick up when he becomes Abomination, would mean that he goes straight back. So there were lots of theories out there that, considering we are getting the Thunderbolts, with John Walker and various other members, that maybe Abomination could be a part of that. I think that could still be on the table. I'm not saying it is going to happen, but someone like Valentina could probably make that go away with how shady she is. So I wouldn't be surprised if she approaches Abomination to help out in the future, but maybe not. Let me know your ideas if you think there's more of a future for Abomination, or is the inhibitor and the tracker and things like that the end of the road? Then we have Jen appear on the news, and it didn't exactly go though. I mean, she's initially dispelling some things, saying she didn't get the name of She-Hulk by giving it to herself. Is some random dude on the news, and then there's that little bit with regards to her diet and exercise routine, and she's like, I'm sorry, what? Jokes like that, simple but effective. Now right at the very, very, very end, we have Jennifer getting jumped, and again, simple but effective humor. She starts panicking kind of instinctually when she gets grabbed from behind, but then she kind of remembers, like, oh yeah, I can transform. So she knocks the living crap out of these guys, and I can't forget that they have these somewhat, magical looking weapons, and that's because they quite literally did rob an Asgardian construction worker. And the most important takeaway from this is that, she completely owned them, but that one guy tried to take a sample of her blood. Now, we visit them when they're back in the van, and one of them asks the other one, hey, did you get it? And he said as soon as it hit her skin when she was transformed, he couldn't, the needle went blunt or whatever. And they said the boss will be mad. Now, you can definitely bet that's why Titania was sent to the court building. I mean, I could be wrong there, but I'm wondering if these guys are hired by the same person who Titania was hired by, and they're trying to get, a little bit of Jen's blood, so maybe they can create a freaking army of Hulks. This has been a seed that has been planted way back in the conversation on the island with Bruce. They heavily emphasized and foreshadowed little moments like this with, we need to destroy your blood, because even though there'd be 1 in a million of chance that your blood would resonate with someone else's, because don't forget that they have genes that allow this Hulk blood and everything to kind of allow this mutation to happen. It wouldn't necessarily happen for me or you. You kind of have to be the right human, if you know what I mean. They destroyed it. But again, a lot of emphasis on that. Still, we don't want to risk that. So the show is now heavily revisiting that, saying, hey, like, you know, did you try and get it? Like her blood? Oh, who else has gone after Jen? Titania? Let me know who you think. This is the question. Who is the boss? I mean, I'm sure this is setting up perhaps a longer term, bigger MCU villainous character, but it could also just be self-contained within this show. They find out who it is, what's going on there, but at the same time, it could echo and branch out to the larger timeline of future Disney Plus shows and future movies within the phases. So gotta look at all of your comments for any ideas and theories that you guys have there. So that was more or less this episode. So overall, it was another enjoyable episode of She-Hulk, one that I feel like I'm repeating myself here from each of the reviews, that I don't think was spectacular, but I still enjoy it, believe it or not, more than a few of the other Disney Plus shows. I think, again, to praise Tatiana Maslany, I think if they didn't have her, I mean, of course, they could have got another great actor, but she carries a lot of the show on her back. Even then, I think one thing that Marvel has got going for them here is that the show doesn't take itself so seriously. It is unfortunate, and I am going to be one of those people, unfortunately. It's just, I feel like I'm telling the truth here. The CGI for She-Hulk does look good sometimes. It looks good sometimes. Like, I'm actually quite surprised sometimes with like, oh damn. But there are other times where they just do have that difficulty in where it comes across like, damn. Sometimes there's that little bit of a subtle blur to the face when she's walking in the office, or, you know, as she's actually speaking and delivering her lines. It's like the lip sync almost. It's not even like lip sync because she actually is talking there, but it's like the way they've added the CGI on the face makes it like if I'm speaking right now, actually I might do this with my mic. It's like the words don't match up to my voice. It's what you're seeing on the screen. So that is letting it down a little bit on that side, but I'm not going to be madly coming down on it for that. I still think that this show is just kind of okay. I don't think it's spectacular, but like being okay is a big win for me. You know, out of like a 10 out of 10 kind of scoring system, okay is kind of like in the middle somewhere, you know? That it could be a lot worse, like a lot worse. The reason why it's not like a 7, 8, or a 9, you know, for me, is because, you know, it's not like, I don't know, you know, name any like really, really quality ass show that's come out in the past couple of years. I mean, I'm sure you can think of 3 from the top of your head right away, like the proper ones everyone is talking about. It's not exactly that. It's the kind of show that I will sit down, maybe watch my girlfriend, be like, you know, I could watch this again, just be like, yeah, you know, it's She-Hulk, but like, I don't think I would ever be compelled to watch it again and again or anything like that. Cameos like Wong and stuff for me, I like Wong, don't get me wrong, but the whole, hey, you know, there's Wong, it doesn't score as many points or ticks in the box for me as it may do other fans who, you know, a lot of member berry, not that this is a member berry, but, you know, lots of fans to be like, oh my god, you know, in Jurassic Park, the new ones, just like, oh hey, it's that character, oh remember that from the old film, oh my god, this film's amazing. Like, that's not always what brings quality to something. Now, that's not so applicable here, but nevertheless, we did have a Wong appearance. I enjoyed his appearance, but it didn't make the episode 3 points higher for me, if you know what I mean. So, you know, Episode 3 of She-Hulk, enjoyed it. Wasn't amazing, wasn't terrible, just somewhere in the middle, and looking forward to still see where it goes, especially for Daredevil. But how about you? Let me know your thoughts, your theories, everything down in the comments below. Go ahead and like this video if you did enjoy it. I would always appreciate that, guys. Links, as always, are in the video description down below, along with other links that I think you guys might be interested in, and, you know, that can support the channel. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the MCU in the next video. Goodbye.